I'm Tatev, and I'm here at Rhizome DC Tacoma Park location in June of 2021. I have the honor of interviewing Laura Irene here today. We will be talking about your memories and visions forward for Rhizome and yourself as a practicing artist. And the way oral history works, it's kind of honoring the way we remember our memories that are kind of fragmented, and so we will be situating all the story around you. With this in mind, we will start from the beginning. So if you don't mind, let's begin with you telling me a little bit about who you are, where you come from, kind of your childhood a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Laura Irene, and I'm originally born in Dallas, Texas. So I moved to DC in 2006.
Okay.
And I've been here since. I'm a visual artist, and also I make music with records, and sometimes I DJ as well. And I also am a part of the art team here, where we review proposals and try to bring more art into Rhizome. So that's been really exciting. Trying to think what else.
Do you want to share any sort of stories that stand out to you from your childhood, like early development in school? What were you interested in?
Yeah, I guess when I was younger, I was always interested in art, but also handwriting. I loved writing. And I also started, wrote stories when I was little too. But I don't know. I guess I've just always kind of been a weird little person growing up, and kind of wanting to leave Texas as soon as possible.
What brought you to DC? How you felt about the city when you first moved here?
Well, a job brought me to DC, but when I first moved here, it was really strange, kind of figuring out who or what was what, and I really didn't discover the music scene that I'm involved with now, or scenes, until I guess 2012, when I started writing for the Vinyl District. And so I interviewed a lot of local bands and went to a lot of shows and met a lot of people, and that's how I started making friends in the area that I'm still connected to today. So that really opened a lot of doors, just writing for. John is the one who runs the Vinyl District, and he just let me kind of have the DC area local reporting on it. So that's something that I really treasure, moving here, and kind of opening my eyes to everything else music-wise that existed.
But what was your first impression of DC then when you first moved here?
Well, when I first moved here, it was weird. I think it was hanging out in Clarendon in Arlington. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And
what is it like there?
It's very white and very gentrified. But I didn't know anything else because I was living in Arlington at the time, and so I was still discovering what else was here. I only knew people from college, and they're not people who grew up here, and so navigating that was really interesting. I used to go to the CD Cellar when it was in Arlington.
What is it?
It's a record store, and so a lot of musicians worked there. And when it was in Arlington, that was the one place in that area that felt like it was more authentic than the other places. And so they started to have shows there, and I got to know people that worked there, and that also led me into this direction of where I am, the community that I have now. Yes, I'm trying to think of, and so I've collected records for a long time.
What kind of records are you collecting?
All kind, a lot of LatinX music, Spanish music, a lot of techno, and then some older records, just some weird ones too that have interesting sounds or people talking. I collect picture discs. I love them of interviews because I'm actually never been on this side of an interview. I'm always the one doing the interview, so it's kind of weird being on this side. But I loved reading about how other people did interviews and listening to interviews. I have an old one of David Bowie's voice, doing an interview, and it's just the most calming thing to listen to for me.
Really?
And it's just really interesting, the way that he answers questions or the way that he talks, and I don't know.
What about it is so common? How does he answer?
I guess because back then it was very it was just the silence of the voice. It's something today that we're overwhelmed with everything. And I think that even when you sit down and talk to people that you don't know, or when someone like him is answering questions, you just hear his voice and it's just very silent. And because it's on a record, you are in silence with it, and then you're turning it over, and it's an intentional process of listening to this person. You're not distracted, you're not watching it on the computer and then you're distracted by this other thing or something else. You're choosing to be in this time with this person from a long time ago, and then his voice itself.
Can you picture that when you listen to the sound? What goes on in your mind?
I guess just listening to his voice and just being present with that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we're not present with things. We can think we're doing one thing, but then we're checking our text messages or seeing what's going on over here. And for me, it's nice just to put on this record and then just, I don't know, just listen to his deep voice and how he talks, and it's just really nice. And it's not just him. I have other musicians that have interviews, and it's just really funny. I have a Morrissey one when he was in the Smiths, and that's interesting because he's just a really funny guy to me.
Yeah.
Because he's just quirky and kind of just says things that you're why did you say that? Or, and I guess I really love that about people and how that comes out when you're talking to someone like that, and it's not them. They're known for, obviously being in a band and being this musician, but then when you get to know them more, it's just something that I just really love.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have space, records or anything that I feel has a really interesting sound. I'll have a lot of electronic cumbia. There's some great bands that come out of Japan, and so just a lot of weird things I try and collect and play.
How do you come across this specific things?
Different labels, and then sometimes estate sales, record stores. But really now at this point, in the beginning it was a lot of record stores for me. And now at this point I kind of know what I like and what I want to collect. And there's a label that has a lot of records that I like. And they do a good job of really spanning the world for them. So I really love that. But yeah, so just interesting things that a lot of people may not hear. And so it's really exciting for me to be able to share that with people.
So have you been playing those in DJ sets?
Yeah, and I used to just play records, and now I really try to make a new sound with them. And so I'll have, I don't know if I necessarily want to continue calling myself a DJ, I guess, but just really providing these amazing records in a way for people just to not only get it, but also for me to explore how this completely different sound can go with this song that's happening, and how to mix that together and really provide this even new sound from that.
Yeah.
I was able to play during quarantine at the beginning of COVID last spring or summer, or no, it was September. It was autumn.
Time is
yeah. And we were able to do an outdoor show, and that was really nice.
Here?
Yeah, and Zach Forrest provided lighting, and so it was just the most amazing night because it felt safe. People were really into it. My friend Homero also played before me, and it was just a really calm and beautiful night. And with everything that we were going through, being able to have a night like that was just really important and really amazing to be a part of and provide for people.
Can you tell me a little more about how you were talking about how it felt safe?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why I kind of started coming to Rhizome, because I felt that it was the safest and the most open place that I've been a part of, in a community that even if there might be tractions at times, you know, you might not understand someone fully, but I felt that there was always a space to actually converse about it, and like sort of maybe how we started this conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's just understanding what one person wants and needs, and so I want to kind of have you reflect on what about Rhizome makes it feel safe.
For sure. I think when you go to other places where there's, you know, it's nice to have so many different people that you don't know, but in a lot of cases, like safety is not something that's ever guaranteed. And that's really unfortunate to go into a venue and just feel like, okay, you know, like this is, you know, at some point you're having to protect yourself, either by like fending off like someone who's super drunk trying to like get in your face, or rude people trying to like get in front of you, or, you know, just something that happens that seems to be normal in a lot of bigger venues. Even when you're just trying to like go and see music. You know, I remember one time like I went to see Rodrigo and Gabriela at 930 Club, and I've been a fan of them for years, since the beginning. And when I went on that night, the room was filled with like white people. And that's not what I was used to seeing that band. And they were so rude and horrible to me. Like this one white woman spit on my back because she didn't want me in front of her. And, you know, and the 930 Club's amazing, and I told them, and they immediately like kicked her out. And so it's not the venue, but it's the people that then go, and what it's become is just something that's just kind of gross. And it's just kind of like, you know, weird for me, because like this is my people, you know, like this is, you know, it was just really weird. Not the audience, but you know, growing up as a first generation Mexican American, you know, I really look up to a lot of Mexican artists, and so for me, like it was something that was really weird to experience with music that I've loved for such a long time. And so at Rhizome, it's a completely different experience than that. Like when I come, I'm like, I feel like I'm coming to my other house. You know, and when I come in, I know I'm gonna see so many people that I love and care about and that are respectful. And that's just like something that's just really rare in this scene and in this city. So that's gonna be hard. I mean, like, you know, you come together for the music, but you stay longer because there's your loved ones here that you want to spend more time with in the backyard or upstairs, and I think that what's really amazing about this place, there isn't like, you know, a venue bodyguard or like some type of like all of these rules that exist to protect people in places where they're not protected really. And here we don't have any of that, and yet this is the safest place that I think I felt coming to a show or to an art exhibit. And that is really unfortunate. That's a few spaces like that exist. And, you know, I don't know, that's really special. And I think like while this house is leaving, this community of Rhizome is still gonna be here, and we're gonna be able to like figure out how to continue to be a community in that way. And I think that's really important for us to think about, because like without the people, like it would just be a house, right? So I think if we're able to like continue like fostering this kind of caring, thoughtful community, then we have a chance to spread that more, maybe even in the next episode of Rhizome. You know, there's so many things that we can always do better as well. You know, I think not having all white shows of all white bands and then feeling really awkward coming to those types of shows. Probably that's the only time that I think I feel strange coming to Rhizome is when that happens. But I don't think I still haven't felt unsafe in that way. Just awkward. But yeah, I think like one time I had my art exhibit here for the other Muertos. I've had it here 2 years in a row now. The last year, in 2019 was the first time I've had it at Rhizome, and we had an opening Sunday for people to come, and there was another exhibit upstairs, and the woman's husband made homemade beer, so he brought that. We all both brought food. We invited all of our friends, and it was like the perfect afternoon. We were and it was a beautiful day. It was like the best day, like weather-wise, and we were all sitting outside, just enjoying each other and being able to like take people through the exhibit, and it was just really, I don't know. I think that's one of my. There's so many favorite experiences I've had at Rhizome, but that's one of my favorites that I think I'll always treasure. Being able to have that time with my friends in this place, with like my work, and just like, and then having like the other artist and I like come together in like such a special way. It's just really nice, and I don't know if anywhere else you can do that.
Can you tell me actually a little bit about that exhibition?
It was so the other Muertos is Day of the Dead. And for me, I've had other exhibits in larger spaces for it before, but I really try to get away from the like commercialization of it. So here it was really nice because I work in red dirt a lot, so I brought some red dirt, and people were able to add names right on the wall of their loved ones who had passed away. And so it's kind of like a memorial altar that we built. And then the altar is back by the window, and then I had some pieces back here that ended up staying up for several months. So a lot of musicians who played here had the backdrop of my paper pieces, and it was just really special to like see people play behind them and then have all the names on the walls of everyone's loved ones. And I also had some panels of that year in 2019 of all of the LatinX people who were murdered by police. And I think there were 140 at that time, the youngest being a 14-year-old child. And so, when I write the names, it's a very emotional time for me. I invite people to help if they like. That year, it was just me writing it, and it takes a really long time, and that's why I guess going back to handwriting when I was younger, like for me, like actually like writing out things is something that allows me to process. And so when I write out people's names, it's really hard and but also really needed to like recognize that they existed in a world where we're constantly like just tossed to the side and not even remembered or recognized as people. And so for me, that's really important. Also noting that Dia de Muertos isn't just a Mexican holiday, it's a holiday that's celebrated throughout Latin America. So that was really important to like bring in other Latinx people into the celebration to be a part of it. So when we built the altar, there were maybe about 15 of us. The whole public was invited to come and build, and 15 people came, and we set it up together, and that was really amazing to do. And then on like the night, I think it's the first, second, and third that are kind of like the big days for Dia de Muertos.
Of October?
Of November. Yeah, and so we had a candlelight ceremony inside, and there was a good crowd, maybe about 20 of us that came, which was really nice because I think that was like a perfect size. And people were, if they felt comfortable, they brought a photo of their loved one and talked about them, and then put it on the altar. And then if no one wanted to say anything, we just sat in silence. And it was with the candles and the night and being in these two rooms, like it was just such a beautiful time of sitting in silence together. After like listening to people's, beautiful stories of remembering their loved ones. And that just doesn't happen. And being able to do that there was really important, or here. And so, and people said afterwards, like, I haven't sat in silence ever, like I've never just with other people. And I think in the beginning, people may have felt a little like weird or uncomfortable with it. And then as we continued to sit, it was just something that I think people really appreciated. And Rhizome giving us that space to do that, in a way where you're not monitored or there are these, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like a really peaceful time in what I think that night became all of our homes, so that was that exhibit. And then this year for 2020, I wasn't going to do anything because it was COVID. And my friend Luke Stewart called and we talked for 2 hours and he was like, you have to do it this year. And I was like, I don't know. I was just feeling so down and weird about how to make art during this time where it was really sad and all of these horrible things are happening and continue to. And so that was the first time that I did an outdoor exhibit and I built an outdoor place for people to sit and think about their loved ones. And so that was really interesting for me, and I loved that Rhizome allowed me to just experiment with that. So it's kind of I know a lot of cultures have rocks that they use for when their loved ones die. Rocks are really important to people, so I created some rock circles and had all of the carpets from Rhizome outside for people to sit on, and had lights at night for them. And so it was a come and go whenever you want, but just a space that during that time was safe for you to come and be. And I really loved that I was able to do that. And then similarly to the closing night, instead we had 3 musicians, Mark Cisneros, Luke Stewart, my friend Ceci, that came and worked, did some music off of each other. And it was just a really beautiful, and people sat around on the rugs and we called out names of people who have passed away, people who were murdered by police that year, and a lot of others to call out names of their loved ones. And it was just a really, those are the times that I treasure.
Absolutely, because these are such painful and personal memories. To be able to share it in a public space, it's really, what do you think keeps a Rhizome community together? You were saying how it's we're going to rebuild it outside of this house. Would you mind just reflecting on the house itself? And you talked about your exhibition inside and your paintings looking at people performing here, which I'm sure they also had a great time. And then your exhibition outside. And let's talk about both the house itself and also the community and what holds it together.
I guess the house itself, because it is a house, it's really special. Even when I was working on both exhibits, I worked the nights before in the house. It was my studio for the night. And I wouldn't be able to do that anywhere else. I brought my tea and my dog came with me at the time. She was really sick. And so for the first one, so it was really nice to have her be with me while I was working, and I didn't have to leave her at home, Lucy. And so she ended up passing away in January of 2020. But a lot of her last memories being places was here at Rhizome. And so I feel really special that this kind of place existed, physically, to be able to do that and have not even shared times with yourself and being able to have that space to make art, but also with your little pets that can come with you. And since COVID, we never used the side yard
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Lane was just reflecting on
Yeah,
that.
and we're like, why?
Why, exactly?
Because it's the most amazing
it
place.
fits so many more people.
Yeah. And on like really beautiful nights and days, it's just, I don't know what else you could ask for, you know? And so I think being able to like think, okay, how can we continue in the space that we have, and then being able to use the side yard in that way was just really special, because I don't know if we would have done that otherwise. And obviously the house itself is just like so nice because you have your music and art here, and like also like the feeling of a home, and just being able to be free with how that is. Is not something that you can do in other places. You know, like it's like, can I do this? Can I do this? And I think people who use it just really, or most people, really respect it and like know what we have and how to, you know, set that up and do our own shows, you know, on a volunteer basis with people. And so I think that's where like the community comes in. So like, you know, being able to call on Ceci, Mark, and Luke is because like we've built relationships. Like those are people, musicians that are amazing in this area, you know, but I also know that they're like thoughtful and kind and gave up their time to be a part of that, you know, and like they're like, no, that experience is really important. I want to be a part of it. And building those experiences, no matter where they are, with those people that we've already like come together with, is really important. You know, there are new people that move here that have like connections to other musicians that maybe we didn't know, and that's like really amazing, and that community then builds bigger. The musicians that play here like become a part of the community. And so it's just like a lot of like, and like, you know, even the night that Wolf Eyes played, that's, my art was still up and everything was up, and they took pictures in my little reflection corner, and it's just like, and that's a really big band, like that's a really well-known band that's like really amazing, and a lot of people like really.
Are they local?
No.
I don't know them.
It's okay, you can Google them. Or maybe, but it's just like to have like, and then people both local and from out of state like become a part of the community when they get here. It's just really like neat. And like, you know, one time I was manning a show, or manning a show, that's weird, like being like running or helping to run a show, and the person's keyboard broke, one of the band members. And so I was able to call my friend, and then she brought over her keyboard for him to use. And they went, you know, and so just like stuff like that, it's just like, just kind of nice that you can do that with each other.
Yeah. So I feel that community is, it's just going to lift itself up.
Yeah, I mean, it exists. Obviously, it's easier with a space to have,
space is wonderful,
you know, because especially in this area, like we don't have spaces in that way. But I feel like there are always people willing to help create a space. But then I think the beauty about how the space is run is really important. Obviously, like Lane being like at the you know, I guess the superintendent of like Rhizome or whatever, you know, like him being so open. And I feel like most people that help with shows, and we're all kind of like-minded in that of like what type of music and experiences we want to happen here. And I think that intentionality is really important.
And
if we continue.
What type is that?
Like for musicians that don't have like another place to play in that way, or like for artists, like, you know, you don't have to be a well-known artist to show here. Like you can have like, you know, never have shown before, and you can have a show here. Or you can be a really well-known artist and show here. Yeah. And like that is not something that is true for most venues that have art exhibits. And I think like when we're reviewing proposals for art exhibits, it's really important to like, for us to give people those opportunities. Yes. and especially to open it up to more people of color and artists of color. And that hasn't always been the case in the past. So like being able to like stop and be like, okay, like who's missing? What is not happening here, and how can we make that happen? And I think the thoughtful process of being able to stop and think about those things and really work towards making this a place for all people, not all people, but like, well, all people, but not like a typical person who may live in Tacoma.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
like everyone from this city, you know, who there are so many representatives of what this true city is that we're missing. And so being able to bring them to these to this space to have those opportunities is really important. And I think most people think that way, that have a hand in doing things here. You know, and we've had conversations before as a volunteer group when booking shows, talking about not having shows that are all white, especially not all white men. And so how do we change that, you know?
Yeah,
and
it's conversations that I've always also wanted to have, especially with some of the jazz shows, audience specifically, and how the audience situates itself in the space too. Sometimes it would just get in my nerves because all the front rows would be the same men.
Yeah.
So it's good, but that's what I mean. Like I feel like for as far as safety goes, we are able to have those conversations for the most part here.
Yeah, and we did have that conversation. We were all sitting outside, and there were other, you know, just having like what is the best way forward, you know? Is it this person that's booking all white shows? Maybe they should step back and allow other people to, because at that time I think most of the people around the circle were white men. And so that in itself
How
is
was that
problematic.
Can you tell me about that? Like, was
I think for me it felt like I was the one having to bring things up. And that's often the case, I think, with myself. And, you know, I don't shy away from that. But I think there's respectful around the circle of like realizing where people sat and where they were sitting and what needed to happen. And I think that's like the really nice thing about this, that you can have those conversations. And I think a lot has changed from that point, and that was unfortunately like a little bit before COVID. So, but just like having that conversation is really great. And so I think that kind of like thinking is important to move forward. You know, we'll have clean out days in the Rhizome, and like I cleaned out the little room, and it took forever. And then I came back like 2 weeks later, and it was all messed up again. It's like, so it's like, like how can, you know, and I would think that's typical of a normal family.
Yeah.
You know, so it was what annoyed me, and I like put all this time into it. Was like, well, it's kind of nice that like I guess this is still like such a comfortable space for people.
I called myself a Rhizome mom. I was like, stop. Pick up your cigarette butts, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, 'cause it kind of feels like your own, like your second home. So you have to kind of take care of it.
Yeah, and so like I think with all those things, it's never perfect, but we also have to like continually try to strive to be more inclusive and diverse and equitable, and how we do that. I think it's important, and that groupthink is really important too for those that are currently involved and continue to be involved in opening up those doors to more people.
Can you tell me a little bit about how Rhizome has changed you or influenced you as a person, as an artist, and also as a member of this community?
For me, I guess having a place where like you can be a part of something that is thoughtful really helped like me find like that purpose in this scene, I think. And I think like the experience that I've had here is something that I try to carry on in other things that I do. And I've always been a part of, I guess, volunteer groups and spaces, or trying to like move things forward, move things up for us, I guess. And it's nice, for me, it's important to be a part of that. I think if I wasn't, I feel like I would be missing a large part of like my experience here. So it's something that I constantly like tell people about or think of. It's like, this place, I mean, it literally is and has felt like another home for myself.
Yeah.
So, when I come on here, I'm like, this is my house, I'm going in. Like, this is like, and not like, and it's not just like mine, but like we share this house together, and it's something very special. So like, I think being able to have that kind of access to a place in this area is really important.
Yeah.
Like, you can go to this place and feel a part of it and like feel accepted, where in other places you might not feel that way, or at least not for myself.
So it gives you more courage to experiment.
I don't know if it's courage, but just opportunity.
Okay.
Like to even have this place as an option. It's I don't know, I think, and Lane has done a really like amazing job with like really bridging and opening those doors. And I think when he first invited me to like help with the proposals, I was like, I felt touched and like really appreciated that I'm not sure I felt before, like that he could see that in me and think that like I should be a part of this. And I think that Lane has a really good like eye in that way, and like consideration that hopefully he continues to be a part of that, or the next Lane or whoever. Like it's just like, it's really like specific to the people that are here, that are drawn to this, because it's not something everybody is drawn to.
No.
Or even understands or wants to put the work in to do.
But once you're in, you're in.
Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, here's, the key, and everybody has the key and everybody respects the key. It's like people who don't have the access to this space, or who have access to this space, are never going to take advantage of that.
No.
Yeah. And that's really like important and crazy, because a space where so many different people have access to it, and it's still like something that's taken care of, and like you don't just leave the doors unlocked or opened, and you know what I mean? Like it's just like, it's all of our homes, and we respect it in that way.
Yeah, like you were saying earlier, there's very few guidelines, but things function so much more peacefully than places with so many guidelines and guards and whatnot.
Yeah. So that's, I think, for this, speaking to the space itself. And then, just being able to have a place to, like, if you have an idea, you can do it.
Yeah.
And there aren't really any other like crazy parameters to that. Just like, okay, I think I'm gonna. When I first met Lane, I was telling him about what I wanted to do, and we just met. I was like, and he was like, okay. I was like, all right, and then we moved forward. In the future, if we do move forward, and if we do have another space, like, I think it's really important to have maybe a bigger art team where we show first-time artists how to apply for proposing shows and help them install, because right now it's very DIY, like the artist does everything, which is great, but also like for those that don't have that experience or capacity, having that help would be really important.
Yeah, it's just, also the fact that it's all run by volunteers.
Yeah.
Just hopefully there's
and we can
more money too, so that.
Yeah. And I think it was also time, like we had talked about it, okay, like we really want to do this, like maybe we could help people talk about like how they should label their work or like whatever.
Yeah.
Just because it is important if we really want to bring people in that are truly a part and from this city, we need to be able to give them the resources to do that and the opportunities to like be able to help them, because it isn't just like, okay, now you're in, like do this. And that is something we've talked about, and so hopefully that's something we can continue somewhere.
I was wondering, do you have any thoughts? You know that they're going to actually move the house, like literally displace it to the farthest corner of the lot or something. I would like you to reflect on that physical space itself being literally pushed up and moved.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than being torn down. I do believe that the fact that family, lower income housing being built here is extremely important. And for me, that is more important than this space being here.
I hope that's actual
that's
reality.
That's what
they're saying.
Yeah, and if that isn't true, then it's unfortunate, but that is what it is saying.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what I'm going to believe.
Okay.
There isn't a lot of 3-bedroom housing for lower income families right now that exist.
They're making 3 bedrooms?
Yes, it's family housing, and that's why it's so important, because that doesn't exist for a lot of people. And being able to put that here in this space where they still have access to everything here in Tacoma Park, you know, and it's safe.
Okay.
That's important to me.
I really hope that's the reality. I would love for that.
And so for me, like, I'm like, yeah, this is the end. But it's also not the end, because there's so much work we still need to do.
Yeah.
And part of me is thinking, well, if we can start in a new space and really elevate what we can do there, because then maybe this is the time to like switch over and really start that process.
Yeah.
And so I'm a person that needs something physical to change. Like, I can't just imagine something. So the idea of like the ending being this house being moved somewhere is important for me as individually to have that, like, this ended. This part is over.
Yeah.
And this is where it's going. And it's going to be sitting here as a memory. But it doesn't mean like we can't continue the work that's already happened somewhere else. And then obviously the fact that like families will be able to live in this spot that's so important to so many of us is important. And that will always trump a space like this for me. Even though I love it. Yeah. But I would give it up for families to have a chance at a better life.
100%.
And so
I hope they deliver, because the low income is not signed anywhere. It's just talk.
Well, I mean, hopefully it is true. If it's not, I think that it would be problematic on a lot of ways. But I haven't heard otherwise. I don't like to like assume like the worst situation. For me, this is what I need to believe.
Yeah, perfect.
So that's not,
I think
not
I need
really,
to get on your
yeah,
level
it's
with
not
that.
really.
Just because I think oftentimes it's those things are noted if they're not certified anywhere, just to make the community more calm. Anyway,
I mean,
we don't need to go.
I don't think that it would be untrue. It seems like it would be. It would make sense to do that here.
Absolutely, it would make sense to do that everywhere. To begin with, but
yeah. So I mean, so yeah, I'm not upset about this. I feel fortunate, and I feel very like we've all been very lucky to have this space for as long as we've had it. Yeah. It's kind of crazy that we even still have had it for so long in this space, and not that we shouldn't, but like, I mean, it's unfortunate that it is rare, but it's also okay. Well, let's figure something else out. We have more work to do. And that's kind of my thinking. If we really want to be like intersectional and inclusive and understanding of our community, then we should all be supportive and understanding of what's happening. Yeah. And that's how I think. I don't just think, oh, here's Rhizome, I'm so sad it's leaving, and not think about like what would be in its place and how those people will become part of this community. That's
I like this vision.
Yeah, I can't separate it.
Yeah.
Because I have heard a lot of people just kind of grumble, and it's like, it's not important to me to hear your grumbling.
Yeah.
Do you understand the necessity of like this needed housing? Because even family low-income housing is not available in 3 bedrooms. It's rare. So I'm hopeful that is the case.
Yeah.
If not, then it's really unfortunate. But regardless, I think instead of and I think it's important to continue thinking, okay, now what do we do? What's our next step? What do we move forward? What can we figure out? Because again, a house is just a house without everyone being a part of it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think it would be kind of funny for just to see it sitting there.
Yeah.
But also it's sad. But a lot of museum places are really boring, the museum houses that you go and filled with racism. So to know that this will be a house that won't be that way, sitting somewhere as a memorial, is kind of nice.
Yeah, and it has all the spirited energies that are already included,
Yeah.
So those are not going away.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Tell me about Valentina.
It's a name I've always loved, but it's also my favorite hot sauce. So, it's just the perfect, because I don't want to be DJ something, which I was before, I think, and I still do things, but I just like having one name.
Yeah.
And that fits for me.
And what is unique to the practice of Valentina?
I have all of these records, and people have always enjoyed music that I've shared with them, so it was playing records. And then Valentina is moving more into mixing them and creating a new sound from records that may not necessarily be I'm just gonna play this whole record for this whole time and then switch to this next one.
Yeah.
It's more of taking, I guess a lot of people do it digitally, how do you say that word? And they are producers and mixers, and I'm trying to do that with records, because I still love how records work, and I have my turntables and all of that, and so I'm there's so much more you can do with, and it's harder because you don't have this thing that you just switch something over. You really have to know when to to combine it and listen to it. So I spend a lot of time just listening to my records, to the point where I know them,
Inside out.
so I don't have to think about it. I'm this will sound good with this, and I'm consistently doing that to the point where I've lost touch with new music that's coming out, because I'm always listening to my records and how they fit in with each other, and then I'll think, oh yeah, that one, and so just trying to create that new sound, and hopefully I think I'm going to try and do some more weird things into it as well. So
are you going to do some of those weird things for your performance in July?
Maybe, we'll see, because I like weird sounds and bringing in outside sounds for things. So I don't know, we'll see.
Are you going to bring in some cicada sounds?
Cicadas are weird. Did you know that when they're all loud and the wind comes, they all stop talking?
Really?
And then as soon as the wind stops, they are quacking up again.
Is it from the sensation of wind, or from
I have
the
no
sound?
idea. We were sitting outside yesterday. I was like, oh my gosh, this is weird. Were the trees and wind talking to these little animals, and they were listening, and then they were started talking again when it passed. It was very interesting.
I saw, one time we were here at the performance, and I'm sorry. And the artist decided to go outside, and it was a summer month, so there were a lot of cicadas. I swear several of us talked how the cicadas were singing along this person's guitar playing.
Oh yeah.
They were stopping when he would stop, and elevating, and just playing along. It was really wonderful.
That happened before here on the side yard with birds. And there were birds that were coming into when the person was playing. I forgot who it was, but we were commenting on it, how hilarious it was, because they were so loud.
Yeah.
But they seemed to be part of it.
They're sort of our like local resident aliens, you know.
Yeah.
We don't understand them, but they you know, operate in interesting
But
ways.
yeah, I think I answered your question.
Yeah, I was.
Something else I missed?
No.
Okay.
No. It's perfect. It's kind of situating it in the DC scene and.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So I think like when Union Arts closed down, then Rhizome became like that place where a lot of those bands, when they used to go there, they started coming here.
Yeah.
And I really think Luke's involvement in that was also super helpful in transitioning to Rhizome. And I think that brought a lot of that crowd here as well. And so I guess like it's just, and really, I don't know. And then I think now, in this past like year or two, the musicians have been even more diverse. And now we have hip hop, we have hardcore, we have jazz, we have, you know, like regular music, we have DJs, we have techno, you know, so it's like that is all happening here. And it's all like musicians who appreciate being in this type of space.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. Like next week, Irreversible Entanglements are coming. And that's really exciting. Or here coming. And so, there's just like a lot of like, it's funny because like the people who get really hype about certain shows, you could tell them about someone else about it, and they're like, who's that? And you're like, you know, this is the most amazing thing that's happening, and it's happening in this little space, you know, like, and I feel like having all those people come together for that like really special thing that like maybe couldn't play anywhere else, like a regular venue, and yet so many people are excited about it, is just really like nice.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I think I'm just looking at my questions. I'm like, you covered all of this. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to talk about?
I guess just like us continuing to think about like how to move forward and how to like really think about how we're moving as a group, and who's missing from that group is really important. And I think.
How do you think we should facilitate those conversations?
I think just like opening it up, like, you know, having more people at the table that come from different perspectives is really important moving forward. And like not getting into like, you know, this person is booking like 10 shows, you know, and they're all the same, and why is this person, you know, like stepping back. And I think we do this really well, and be like, okay, like maybe that isn't working. Like we need to open it up to more people, but it's a lot of work. So it'd be nice like to have some kind of stipend or something to keep this going in a different place. And also like, you know, we shouldn't be asking people, especially like marginalized people, to do things for free.
No.
And so like how do we as like a group, how can we like move forward and really think about those things, because we can only do so much, but at the same time, like this has been such an amazing place, and really grateful for it is all, you know, and looking forward to hopefully the next chapter.
Are you going to do another altar?
Well, it's in November. I don't know if this. I don't know if this will still be here.
It sounds like until the end of the year.
Yeah, it might be till the end of the year. If so, I hope so. And I guess what I meant to say about that too is like I take Dia de Muertos and ungentrify it, and also like bring it to a new generation. So like our generation is different from like my grandmother's generation, and the way that they celebrated it, and still like really beautiful, but like opening that space for those types of celebrations to be even more inclusive of where people are, to include even more diverse Latinx people and all people. And like, and I think Black and brown people, it's really important for us because we share very similar histories and art even. And so like, and especially with memorials and how we celebrate death is similar and interesting across the board. So like really taking that and opening it up for people, and that's something that like I would like to continue and exploring and identifying and like bringing to this space, just reflecting.
Is like celebrating death and celebrating life, are those connected?
I guess like in celebrating death, it's like thinking about your loved ones, if you're able in the life that they had. That is hard. I know a lot of people stay away from it because of that. The first Dia de Muertos that I did was in my house with a few friends. We had a dinner and I made like my famous tostadas dish, and it was like, my one friend did not want to come. They were like, I can't talk about my mother, you know, and because there was just so much more attached to that, and kind of like we were talking about earlier, and like, don't worry, but like if you would like to come and
like you were saying, also just being able to sit in silence. You don't always need to talk in this situation.
And she did come, and it was something that she's very grateful for. And again, it's creating that safety though for people to share or not share, creating a space just for people to be. And I think the Rhizome has been a space that I can continue that practice in my home life to bring to this space for more people that I don't know, you know, and so like that's why I feel like us as humans come into play, because we do create these, you know, we curate these shows and scenes and spaces, and like it's the people that are drawn to that are the people that come and respect it. No one's gonna come if they're not drawn to that. And that's okay. Maybe they'll be in the following year or the year after, or, but also like, I think especially with like Black and brown people being the most people that died and are dying from COVID, it was really important to have that space here for that. And so, and that's hard. And so, because we're kicked out of so many other things during 2020, you know, and even parks being closed down, having the side yard for people to sit is like so nice that the physical space is able to provide that for people.
I really hope that the next space also has an outside, because there's something also different about engaging with one another outside of pandemic times.
Yeah, thankful to everyone.
Okay, perfect. We're good.